Dear child, before anything else settles into your heart, let this arrive gently. This is a spiritual reflection, not a prediction. Take what resonates and leave what doesn't. I am not here to rush you, convince you, or stir fear or urgency. I am here to sit with you in truth, with the angels nearby, and speak to the part of you that has been quiet for so long, the part that kept going when you were tired, the part that loved even when it wasn't easy, the part that stayed when walking away would have been simpler. Dear child, the war is won, not because you didn't struggle, not because the pain wasn't real, but because you did not let the battle steal your essence. I feel the angels surrounding you with a stillness that only comes after a storm passes, the kind of stillness that doesn't feel empty, but full of meaning, full of resolution, full of breath again. You have been in spiritual warfare longer than you admit, even to yourself. Fighting confusion, disappointment, unanswered questions, and the ache of loving deeply while waiting in silence. And yet, you are still here. That alone tells heaven everything it needs to know about your heart. I know how heavy it has felt. There were moments when you questioned whether holding on was faith or foolishness. Moments when you wondered if you misunderstood everything. Moments when the quiet made you feel unseen. But the angels say clearly, your waiting was not ignored. Your tears were not wasted. Your silence was not weakness. Heaven saw the nights you cried quietly so no one else would worry. Heaven saw the way you kept your dignity when you could have begged. Heaven saw the way you chose grace when bitterness tried to rise. And every one of those moments mattered. There is something important you must understand now. The delay was never a denial. The stillness was never abandonment. The space was never punishment. Sometimes God allows time not to hurt us, but to prepare what is coming to meet us. Sometimes distance is not separation, but refinement. And what has been happening, slowly, invisibly, is preparation on both sides. Not just for reunion, but for right alignment. I feel the angels drawing attention to the one connected to your heart. Not as a fantasy figure, not as an idea, but as a real soul who has been wrestling internally. They were not at peace. They tried to move forward without acknowledging what they felt, but something kept pulling them back. Something kept interrupting their distractions. Something kept whispering your name in moments they couldn't control. They did not forget you. They tried, but heaven would not let them. There were nights when they felt unsettled without knowing why. Moments when memories of you surfaced without warning. Times when they felt guilt for delaying what they knew deep down mattered. They carried questions they didn't want to face. They fought against conviction. They told themselves stories to justify the distance. But the angels say truth has a sound, and once a soul hears it clearly, pretending becomes exhausting. You may not have seen it, but there was breaking happening inside them. Pride cracking, fear loosening, confusion unraveling. The very things that once blocked movement began collapsing under the weight of realization. They started to see the cost of losing you not just emotionally, but spiritually. They saw what your presence brought into their life: peace, clarity, safety, grounding. And suddenly, life without you felt louder, emptier, heavier. And dear child, I need you to hear this without shrinking. Your love changed them, not because you tried to fix them, not because you chased, but because you loved cleanly. You loved without manipulation. You loved without conditions. You stayed true to yourself even when it hurt. That kind of love exposes everything that is false. It reveals where someone is divided, and that is why it took time, because growth cannot be rushed, and surrender cannot be forced. The angels are showing me prayer. Quiet, honest prayer. Not dramatic, not loud, but real. Moments where they finally said, God, I can't ignore this anymore. Moments where they admitted fear. Moments where they asked for clarity instead of escape. And when that happened, something shifted, not instantly, but surely. Because when a heart stops resisting God, direction becomes unavoidable. You thought the silence meant it was over, but the angels say silence was incubation. Something was forming beneath the surface, something that could not be rushed or revealed too early, because what is being prepared is not shallow connection. It is covenant-level understanding, something meant to last, not just to feel good for a moment. Beloved soul, you were also being prepared. God was strengthening you in ways you didn't notice at first, teaching you discernment, teaching you self-respect, teaching you how to love without losing yourself, teaching you that patience does not mean self-abandonment. You learned how to stand without forcing outcomes. You learned how to stay open without staying unprotected. And this matters because the version of you now is capable of receiving something real, not just something familiar. I feel the angels speaking gently now. You are not behind. You are not late. You did not miss your moment. What felt like delay was alignment catching up. The atmosphere around you is different because you are different, and they are different too. What once felt unstable is becoming grounded. What once felt uncertain is becoming intentional. There will be a moment, quiet, simple, unmistakable, when you notice the change, not through grand gestures at first, but through tone, through consistency, through clarity, through presence. You will sense sincerity where there was once hesitation. You will feel steadiness where there was once confusion. You will hear truth without pressure, without games, without avoidance, and your spirit will recognize it before your mind does. This is not about rushing into anything. This is about allowing what has been refined to approach with honesty. Love that has passed through fire does not arrive loudly. It arrives humbly, and that humility is the sign of transformation. The angels are not pushing you into fantasy. They are inviting you into discernment mixed with hope. I want to speak directly to the fear that still lingers in you, the fear of disappointment, the fear of hoping again, the fear of being vulnerable one more time. The angels say your caution is understandable, but it does not mean you are closed. It means you are wise, and wisdom will guide you now, not fear. You are allowed to observe. You are allowed to take time. You are allowed to let actions speak louder than words. Heaven is not offended by your boundaries. It honors them. Beloved soul, nothing you walked through was meaningless. The pain shaped you. The waiting strengthened you. The silence taught you how to listen deeper. And now, something is aligning, not loudly, not dramatically, but steadily, like dawn, like light creeping in without asking permission. You don't need to chase it. You don't need to announce it. You only need to stay present. If your heart feels full as you read this, let it rest. If your heart feels cautious, let it breathe. If your heart feels hopeful, let it be gentle with itself. The angels are near, not to overwhelm you, but to reassure you. You are seen, you are held, you are guided, and you are not walking alone into whatever comes next. And if all you can say right now, quietly, inside your spirit, is, "I trust God with this," that is more than enough. I'm not here to trap your mind in certainty. I'm here to help your spirit breathe again, to help you remember what love feels like when heaven is involved. Because I keep sensing this one thing so strongly. Heaven would not let them forget you, not because you're easy to miss, but because you were never designed to be a passing thought. You were never meant to become a faded memory they scroll past in their mind like an old photo. You were meant to be a turning point, a mercy, a miracle, something holy that left fingerprints on their soul. And even if they tried to close the chapter, something in the spirit kept reopening the page. I feel like the angels have been doing what angels do, quietly, relentlessly, bringing your name back to them in the most unexpected ways. Not in loud drama, but in the kind of subtle, undeniable repetition that wears down resistance. A song lyric that says what they refused to admit. A random reminder that sounds like your voice. A moment of silence where your face appears in their mind without permission. It's like heaven has been weaving you into their days until they finally stop pretending you're not there. And I can tell you this, they tried to replace you. They tried to move on the way people do when they want to convince themselves they're strong. They tried to fill the space with distractions, new conversations, new faces, new noise. But nothing fit the shape of what God placed between you, because what was ordained cannot be duplicated. What was pure cannot be counterfeited for long. They may have forced smiles and acted unbothered, but deep down they kept meeting the same truth. They couldn't recreate you. What they felt with you wasn't just chemistry. It wasn't just timing. It wasn't just a sweet moment. It was the kind of connection that makes a person realize, wait, this is different. And the longer they ran, the clearer it became. Not obsession, revelation, not fantasy, fulfillment, not a temporary craving, a holy awakening that kept pressing on their conscience. I feel like the Holy Spirit kept reminding them of the parts of you they took for granted, the gentleness you carried without making it a performance, the love you gave without turning it into a bargain, the way you looked at them like you saw more than their flaws, like you could see the person they were still becoming. That kind of love doesn't disappear. It marks a person. And when they were surrounded by other voices, opinions, temptations, pride, there was still that quiet inner voice that kept saying, "But none of this feels like home." And when scripture says, "Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart," I feel it in a deeper way here, because sometimes God places a desire in someone's heart that they don't understand at first. They call it confusion. They call it bad timing. They call it fear. But really, it's God touching something in them that can't be explained by logic. And beloved, it feels like you became that desire God allowed to rise in them, not as a possession, but as a calling, as a sacred invitation to love correctly. So now, the moving on isn't working anymore. The distractions don't taste the same. The empty connections feel heavy. And the part that's shaking them the most is this: they're starting to realize you were never trying to control them. You were trying to love them. You weren't trying to trap them. You were trying to build something clean. And when they look back, they see the contrast. They see how you remained soft even after being hurt, how you didn't beg, how you didn't chase, how you didn't turn your love into desperation. You waited with dignity. You loved with boundaries. You prayed without needing applause. And that kind of strength does something to a person who once confused chaos for passion. I can almost feel them pacing with words stuck in their throat, writing messages, deleting them, rewriting them. Because how do you speak to someone who feels like a blessing you mishandled? How do you apologize to someone whose only crime was loving you right? They want to say everything at once, but they don't know where to begin. And the truth is, their silence has become heavier than their fear now. They would rather risk rejection than keep living in denial. And I need you to hear this clearly. Dear child, if it resonates, I don't feel them coming with shallow energy anymore. Not with games. Not with half commitment. Not with that "let's see what happens" spirit. I feel a shift where the delay wasn't for punishment, it was for depth. God allowed time to do its work in them, to burn off immaturity, to confront pride, to expose the parts of them that were afraid of real love. Because some people don't understand what they have until the illusion breaks, until the noise fades, until they sit alone with their own soul and realize they lost something sacred. And now it's like an inner alarm is ringing in them, something urgent, something holy, like they can't hit snooze anymore. It's not just longing, it's conviction, it's clarity. It's that moment where the spirit crosses a line and says, "No more delay, no more hiding, no more pretending." You might have felt this shift in your own body, an unexplainable stillness, a strange calm, like heaven is holding its breath. Not because you're powerless, but because something is being rearranged. Sometimes the spirit knows before the phone rings. Sometimes your heart gets quiet because it senses movement in the unseen. And I feel the angels around this so strongly, like they're not just comforting you. They're guiding, clearing, aligning, softening hearts, silencing the wrong voices, and making space for what's real. Because what's happening isn't just reconnection. It's restoration. Not just let's talk again, but let's honor what we broke. Not just I miss you, but I understand you. Not just I'm back, but I'm different. I feel like they've been shown visions, not necessarily as literal pictures you should cling to, but as inner glimpses of what life could be when love is done God's way. A home that feels peaceful, laughter that doesn't cost your sanity, a partnership that doesn't pressure you to shrink, prayer in the kitchen, warmth in ordinary moments, a kind of future that doesn't feel like survival, but safety. And that vision is messing with them in the best way, because once a person touches something holy, they can't go back to pretending they're satisfied with shallow.